In this video, we're going to be talking about finding domain and range from a graph. Let's see, let me hide this right here so that we can go on to the right ones. Okay, so right here, I have a graph, and it's a continuous graph, and it's only, it has two endpoints from one end to the other. Right here, it's closed dots. Okay, one of the things we need to know is that when we have a line and there's a closed dot, this closed dot means that it's equal to that point. That's why we put equal to that number. That's why we put a dot whenever we're graphing. Now, an open circle means that it does not equal. Okay, so that means it starts at this point, but it's not that point. It's everything to, on this case, everything to the right of it. So let's go back over here and let's look at this one. Let's pull this back down. Oops, I'm writing on it here. There we go. Okay. When you have something like this, the first thing that I would tell you to do is I would take either note cards or something. In this case, I'm just going to cover up each side. I'm going to kind of trap it in so that we can look at the domain and range. Okay, so there we go. Now I'm looking just at the picture that I need to. This is the segment that I have. I know that the domain is the x. Okay, now the x goes across left to right, so it goes this way. Now, my point, the farthest to the left it is right here at -2. And the farthest to the right is +2. If I were to write this in words, my x number, my x is between -2 and 2. It is also including those numbers, okay? I don't know, I mean, if I had to say it in words, that's what I would say. I'd say including -2 and 2. We can write this with inequalities. And the way that I would do this is, first off, we know that x is in between. Now, you're going to put the smallest number to the left. That -2 is going to go here. And to the right, it's going to go over here and be +2. Now, right now, because how we're learning it, without going into a lot of details, when you always put the smallest number to the left and the largest to the right, our inequality symbols are always going to be pointing this way. It's always going to be the less than symbol. And I'll talk about that maybe in a little bit. But this right here, see how there's a closed-in circle? I said that it's equal to, so I have to put an equal to, because this means less than or equal to. So my x is less than, well, actually the x is between -2, and then this is a closed dot, so it's equal to 2. What's actually happening right here, if I take my inequality right there, that says x is less than or equal to 2. Well, yeah, all these x numbers are less than 2. If you flip this around, it actually has, you have to flip it all around like that, and it says x is greater than or equal to -2. Well, if you look at this, all of these x numbers are greater than -2. We're really not going to worry about that as much. Let me get that out of the way. Oops, I'm trying to mark all over the place. All right, so here's my domain. Now let's look at the range. All right, let me get this out of here. My range, there are my y numbers. Okay, so I've got my y. Now, the range goes up and down. What's the lowest point it starts at? It starts down here. Look at this point right here. It starts at -3. And the line, the data, goes all the way up to +3. So you could say that the range is between -3 and 3. Well, so let's put -3 here and +3 here. Point the arrows right here to your left, as long as you have the small number on the left and the large number on the right. Because it is a closed-in circle, I'm going to put the equal to bar to it. So there's my range. Now, if I wanted to rewrite and put it up here, my domain, we found my domain to be -2. Okay, so there's my domain and range. All right, let's go to the next problem. Let's look here. Pause the video, try and write your domain and range and come back and see how you did. I'm going to box in my graph to kind of see, just to kind of look at the area, the only area I want to look at. Oh, there we go. I thought I lost it. Okay, first off, let's find the domain. I know domain is x. X goes from left to right here. The farthest left I have over here is right here at -3. So -3 goes here, and the farthest to the right is 1. Now, my symbols, I said, because x is between, I'm going to always point them this way. Now I have to figure out the equal to bar. This right here is an open circle. It is not equal to that. So I leave this alone. This one, though, is a colored in circle. It means equal to. So I'm going to go up here and I'm going to draw an equal to line. This is my domain. My range, I know my range is y. The farthest down my range goes is down here, see, at -2, and it goes all the way up here to 2. Even though there's not a dot right there, it's still, the graph is going all the way up here to 2. So it goes from -2 to 2. My symbols are always going to be pointing to the right. Now, down here is an open circle at -2. So I leave it like this, with just a less than symbol. Now when I go all the way up here to 2, that's on the line. Anything on the line is equal to, and you would put the equal to bar. The next one, pause the video and come back and see how you did. Okay, in this case, again, I'm going to box it in. But if you notice, what is different on this one? Okay, I guess I need to make this a little bit bigger. There we go. We haven't seen this on the other two. We have an arrow. What does that arrow mean? Well, with the arrow, it means that it's going to go on forever and ever and ever and ever. Okay, so let's look first at the domain. I know domain is x, so I'm going to put an x right here. The farthest out here that my graph goes is to -3. So let's put a -3 here. And the farthest out to the right. Now the graph goes to 5, but we just said there's an arrow up here. That means it goes on forever and ever. What can we use to represent forever and ever? That's infinity. And to represent infinity, it looks like an 8 on its side, so we do it like that. Now I point my arrows to the left, because that means they're in between -3 to infinity. At -3, there's an open circle, so you don't put the equal to sign. Now some people say, well, what about infinity? Technically, you'll leave it right here like this with the less than symbol, because infinity is really just a concept. It's not an actual number. It's just saying that we can never really reach infinity. You know, it just keeps going on and on. So we'll leave it like that. My range. My range, I know that that's my y. Well, the farthest down it goes is right here on that graph. That's -1. And the highest it goes up to, well, again, that arrow keeps going and going. So I've got my infinity. Let me point my arrows to the left. Now, down here at the bottom, this is on the line. Okay, there's not an open circle, so it's equal to. Up here, because we're going up to infinity, we'll leave it like that. Next one, pause the video right now and come back and see how you did after you try and figure out the domain and range. Let's go and box in what you have for your graph. Maybe you need me to box it in, and then you press pause and try and figure out what it is. If you need that, go ahead and do that. My domain. I know that my domain is x. My x goes across this way. The farthest to the left is right there at -2. The farthest to the right is at 4. Now, my arrows. I'm always going to point my arrows. I'm going to use a less than symbol. It is a closed-in circle right there, so I'm going to put equal to. That is an open circle, so I leave that alone. My range. I know my range is y. When the range is up and down, the lowest it is at -3. The highest it goes up to is 2. Now, my symbols, I'm going to point them to the left. Now let's look down here at -3. At -3, it's a colored in circle. That means it's equal to. Up here at 2, that's an open circle, so I'll leave it with just the less than symbol. Well, now we can go and look at the next one. Here's the next one. If I were you, I would pause the video and see if you can figure out what the domain and range is and come back and see how you did. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to box in my answers. Let's see, as I'm boxing them in. Remember, some of the times after I box them in, you might want to then go back and try and see if you can find out the answer now if you didn't have any luck just a minute ago. I have the domain. I need to know that the domain is X. That means I go left to right. The farthest to the left is -3. So I'm going to put -3. Remember, okay, let's do this. And then I go all the way to the right. Wait a minute. It's not 5 because there's an arrow. Arrow means it goes on forever, so I've got that infinity symbol. Now you always use the less than, so let's put that in there. On the -3, it's an open circle, so I leave that alone. Now I said anytime we have infinity, we don't put the equal to sign, we just leave it as the less than. Now we have the range. The range is the y. Y goes up and down. The lowest point it's at is right here at -1. The highest point it goes up to, well, it's that line, that arrow that keeps going and going. So that's going to be infinity. Now here, right here, since it's, let me erase that little dot right there. Okay, it's on that line. It's an actual dot. There doesn't have to be a dot like this, but since it's it's a line and it's part of the graph, that means it is a dot. So I'm going to have less than or equal to, and then this one, remember, is just less than. Next one. I would go and pause the video if I were you and see how you do. In this case, here we go. I'm going to make my box in my graph. All you're doing by boxing it in is trying to get a general idea. My domain, I have X in the middle. X goes left to right. The leftmost point right here is -2. The one on the right is 4, because see there's dots on each one. My inequality symbol, I'm going to have it pointing to the left. This is a closed-in circle at -2, so I'll put an equal to. At 4, it's an open circle, so I leave it alone. The range. The range is y. It goes up and down. The lowest points down here are at -3. The highest points up here, that's right there at 3. My symbols, we're always going to point it to the left if we have that small number on the left. Now down here we got a little bit of a problem because there's a colored in circle and an open circle. Okay? You're going to have to put equal to because there is a colored in circle. If there's even just one of them, it counts here. And we're going to go all the way up to the top, and it's on that line, so it is equal to. See, this would be a little confusing with the two of them. But even though one of them is not colored in, if one of them is, then you have to include it. The next one, pause the video, come back and see how you do. Box in my graph. Now I'm going to write in there my domain. My domain is X, and if I look here from left to right, the farthest to the left it is -2. So let me put that there. Farthest to the right is +2. Well, what do you notice? I see that both of these circles are colored in. So when I go up here, I'm going to draw it. I'm going to put my equal to line. My range is my y. My y goes up and down. The lowest point I'm at right here is -1. The highest point I'm up at is 3. I'm going to put the less than symbols. Now, this is on the line, so -1 is equal to. These are colored in dots, shaded circles, so I'll use the equal to. There's the next one. Pause the video, come back and see if you can come up with the correct domain and range. Now let's box the answer, so in case you need that help, you can use that before you do domain and range. All right, domain is my x. My x goes left to right. The farthest out here it goes is -3. The farthest to the right is 1. My symbols are going to point to the left. This is non-shaded, so I leave it alone. This one is shaded. I'm going to put the equal to. Range. My range is my y. It goes up and down. The lowest point right here is -3. The highest point it goes up to is 2. My arrows are going to point to the left. Down here at the bottom at -3, it's a shaded circle. That means equal to. Up here at the top, it is an open circle, so I leave it alone. Next one, pause the video, come back and see how you did. Let me box in my answer. Or not my answer, but my graph, sorry. My domain. My domain, I'm going to put my x in the middle, left to right. The leftmost point right here is -3. The one to the right is 1. My symbols, use the less than. Now, that does not equal 2, so I leave it alone. That's a shaded circle. At 1, it equals. My range. Here is my y. Goes up and down. The lowest point I get here to is -3. The highest point up here is 3. Now, my symbols will point to the left, the less than symbols. This is on the line, so it's equal to. This is on the line, so it's equal to. Next, I would pause the video, come back and see how you do. Well, I need to clone mine. I didn't get these cloned, so that I can box mine in. I'll do that now. And put that one over there. Let's see. Put this one up top. Let's see, maybe make it a little bit bigger. There we go. Do that with this one. There we are. And the last one. There we go. Oh, didn't want to move here. No, don't do that. All right. There we go. All right, my domain. Again, if you haven't gotten it by now, domain is x. X goes left to right. The farthest to the left it goes is -3. To the right, oh look, there's an arrow right there. So that means infinity. So now my arrows, I'm going to point them, the less than symbols. This is an open circle, so I leave it alone. And because I use infinity, I leave it alone. Range. My range, by now we know it's the y. We go up and down. The lowest we're at is -2. The highest point up here is 2. My arrows, because this is an open circle, it's less than. Up here it's on the line. It's less than or equal to. Let's see. There's another one. Nope, that would be all.